The Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Real Doctor Who fans with real Doctor Who opinions.
Calling all Whovians. Welcome to the Dr. Alhambra Podcast, your sonic gateway to all things Time Lordy, Doctor Who-y, and Big Finishy. I am your host, Brett, and this is podcast episode 320E of the Dr. Alhambra Podcast. Yes, in today's episode, this is going to be yet again a solo edition because, Liam and Legion still recovering over the Naimon incident that happened last week. We're going to be looking at the Big Finish news and releases that have been announced, as well as discussing and taking a deep dive into the news and the season 1 titles releases, as well as some of the other things that tickle my fancy. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. All right. So I will tell you that that took way too many more takes than I would have liked. Probably should have used ChatGPT to have created a better introduction, but here we are. The struggle is real. Anyway, that being said, let's get into the first of many topics. Again, I'm going to be taking a look at the Big Finish latest news, the 15th Doctor book series that has been announced, the season 1 episode titles and the writers associated with them. And then I'm going to kind of be taking a little dive into that and giving my thoughts. Again, if you'd like to, you can email the show at Alhambra Podcast. That is at Alhambra Audio, ALHAMBRA Audio at gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. So, I think there's going to be some unpopular opinions throughout here. So just keep that in mind. So first on the docket, we have River Song returns from the dead. Now, when they initially killed off the Diary of River Song series, the speculation was that there was going to be a Diary of River Song or River Song series, miniseries, spin-off series, what have you, for Disney Plus. And, it made a whole lot of sense. Disney is constantly doing so many spin-off series of certain things. They are, according to RTD, they kind of helped save the show from BBC because the BBC is spiraling into the toilet bowl of uselessness, it seems like. Well, maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I don't live in England. But yeah. Anyway, so the thought was that we were going to get a Alex Kingston series on Disney Plus, and it was going to be kind of interesting how they were going to do this. Would this be from Silence in the Library? Where is this going to be located? Are we going to be kind of tying into modern continuity or whatnot? But no, this is actually that ending the Diary of River Song series is turning into the Death and Life of River Song, a brand new full series, full cast audio from Big Finish, according to the press release on the 4th of April. And I will tell you, having listened to almost, I don't even know, 10, 11, 12 series. I know I sat out the last 3. I think series 9 of Diary of River Song was when I was done with it. And I had kind of wanted to be done with it beforehand. But again, we are a Doctor Who podcast. We are also a reviewing podcast. And at least for me, as I'm trying to, juggle the future of the podcast still, I think that it'd be more interesting to kind of be a, talk radio show, kind of like, live streaming like on YouTube and whatnot, getting questions, feedback that way. Again, if you'd like to, I do know that this episode will be up on YouTube. Like, subscribe there too. Ring the bell for notifications, what have you. But also give us some feedback through that because I do monitor at least our email account and I get notifications those ways. But I'm not impressed with the idea of this series. I think the idea of this series actually is worse. And hear me out again. And this is one thing that I wish Liam and Legion were here for. I think this series, The Death and Life of River Song, currently, as constituted, sounds like a worse idea than the Robots series. Now, the Robots series taking place between one moment in time in, what was it, Doom Coalition? Or no, Ravenous. And I think that was a weak setup to begin with. And this has, according to all, so I do like that it's written by Robert Valentine. I do think that is great. I like that, it's this last word has 3 volumes all set up, will be released in, due to be both released in 2025. So volumes 2 and 3 released both in 2025. Volume 1 obviously will be released this year in 2024, or sorry, the year of the recording of this episode. But I don't like this. So we have, according to the release, an archaeologist from the 52nd century, born and raised to be an assassin, destined to marry her intended target and to have many of her own adventures too. Professor River Song's very messy timeline began and maybe ended when she first appeared in the 2008 Doctor Who TV series Silence in the Library. Since, Alex Kingston has reprised her role as River, numerous Big Finish productions, including her own series, Diary of a Song, from 2015 to 2023, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, brand new series. The first box set in this series, Last Words, written by Robert Valentine, it begins when River, after settling down to an afterlife in the library's computer core, finds herself waking up in Earth's future, her consciousness having been temporarily transferred to a new body. Now, I don't know. I don't know how much I like this idea. I think I'm glad that it is not taking place in the mainframe of the moon computer, because that would just be super dull. But to have her consciousness transferred into a body, I mean, first off is like, why is she going to be doing this for everybody else that is trapped in the moon so that everybody can live outside also? Second, I think it's going to give her, immortality. I think, kind of similar to what some of the characters in the new unit series, not the new unit with Bambara, but the other one, you have some people who are near immortal because of certain upgrades and certain events. And I think that when you make somebody impervious to anything except for the possibility of being taken over, I think that's where you struggle to find a really good and compelling series. So she's just going to be herself, except stronger probably. And, with the aspect of her being taken over, again, similar to Chameleon, also in the Chameleon trilogy, which is so grateful that they just kind of hopefully ended that thing right there. So I'm not really too enamored with this. Robert Valentine, yeah, I do have confidence in, but I've not, and don't feel like I want to buy in to this. I think what might have to happen is I might need to listen to the trial audio when that comes out and make my decision there. In fact, one of the things I've been thinking about doing in the future for the podcast is taking those trial audios, those free ones, and doing a review revolving around all of that, because that everybody has access to, regardless of whether you sail the 7 seas or you get things legitimately. Everybody has access to the freebie of certain things. I'm getting ready to do that with the Dream Team for the Fifth Doctor. I did download that. I've not picked up the Fifth Doctor story yet. I'm still thinking about it. I did pick up the Centaurans versus Rootons, and I think I'm going to just sit down and do an entirety binge of the whole Centaurans versus Rootons and do a review of everything, encompassing it 100% filled with spoilers, because I think it's, at least for me, as I listen back to older episodes, at certain times we refuse to spoil it, and then we just, on other instances, we spoil the crap out of everything. So I think possibly we just need to, sound the spoiler alarm on reviews when we just are going to, or maybe it just is assumed that we just are going to spoil everything and just talk about everything and then hear feedback. I think that'd be a good way to go. But if you would like to send us your thoughts, please email the show again at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. You can tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. DMs are open. Another thing that hit, Liam tagged me in the Big Finish audio group, not to be confused with the don't laugh a face emoji or I'll kick you out group. This interesting situation set up. The first doctor enters a new Unbound era. And a couple of years ago, we talked on the podcast about the actual plausibility of the David Bradley doctor being an Unbound doctor. And I thought that was a kind of an interesting setup because, again, for me, the distraction for this group, besides David Bradley, I've never really felt as though, Gemma Powell, who plays Barbara Wright, Jamie Glover, who plays Ian Chesterton, and Claudia Grant, who plays Susan Foreman, I've never really felt as though I knew these characters, unlike when I watch the classic series where I know the characters, I can hear them in their voice, and I don't have to be reminded of who they are because, again, this is not a visual medium. This is an audio medium. And if you sound differently, again, compared to what the character should sound, I do think that it is a case of, unboundness. And it was brought up that, possibly the David Bradley stories, the previous ones that were released up to before 2024 were part of an Unbound Doctor series. And I totally, I like that. I am sold on that idea, actually. The Stephen Noonan ones, I don't think I think there's more, especially now that they've tied into, not Barbara, what is it? Anyway, they've tied into classic stories already. So I think that and I could be wrong. I have not listened to any of the David Bradley ones. I do have listed that I will listen to, was it the Dalek Occupation of Winter or whatnot. I will be doing that in the near future sometime. But again, I think that this is more plausible to be part of the Unbound Doctor. But here is my issue with everything. So as I was looking at the press release, it says, where is it? I cannot tell you how excited I am to be taking charge of the first Doctor Unbound. This is, is this David Bradley or is this the producer, David O. Mahoney? I think it's David O. Mahoney. So he starts off talking about how the Peter Cushing films of the 1960s were our stylistic inspiration. So I like that this is what gives him the idea for this Unbound series. It says the true technicolor nature of the storytelling. We wanted all these adventures to have that bank holiday or Sunday afternoon feeling. We combine this with the brilliant cast of the BBC anniversary special and Adventure in Space and Time, led by David Bradley. Then it says, okay, so this is David O. Mahoney. So it says, I cannot tell you how excited I am to be taking charge of the first Doctor Unbound. Similarly to the Lost Stories range, making these stories unbound to the television continuity of Doctor Who gives us a wonderful creative freedom to explore characters, stories, and styles. And that is, I like that. I like that tagline and the, not the tagline, but essentially the interview line or the response line to this series. And the problem I have with that is not Big Finish's fault at all. My problem that I have with that actually in general is RTD has now made that pointless with his bi-regeneration and all this other stuff. Now you could almost say that all of the Unbound stories previously released throughout, from when the first one was released, I think 2005, to the last one, which I believe was around 2009, 10 or something like that. All of those 10 Unbound stories, the David Warner Unbound Doctor. Like, who is to say that this isn't one of the effects of the bi-regeneration? Again, it just cheapens everything. And that is where I have the problem. And I'm still struggling with the idea of watching the new series, because what Chibnall did with The Timeless Child made the Doctor's death not matter in the least. The background of explaining everything and having a reason for everything and taking the mystery. One of the things that Legion has said throughout multiple years of being on the podcast is, Liam would say, I want, the genesis. I want the backstory. And Legion would, say, does it have to be explained? Do we have to know the backstory? Can't there be a tad bit more mystery? And again, that is where I really struggle with the bi-regeneration and also the Chris Chibnall Timeless Child, is it takes the mystery out. The argument online is, well, this is what the Cartmel Master Plan was. Well, you know what? If that's what the Cartmel Master Plan was, I'm so happy it failed and the show went off the air for a while. I mean, I hate saying that, but again, is that what I'm going to have to be rooting for now? Am I going to be rooting for Doctor Who to go off air? Because I don't like the idea of that. I think, and what is it? I found a screenshot. I took a screenshot a while ago surrounding toxicity of fan. We've talked about it. I listened back to some of those toxicity episodes that we did early on, and I will tell you, I think I have kind of somewhat had not a change of heart per se, but somebody, a comic book creator, put this on Twitter and said there are 3 pillars of toxic fandom. And I kind of agree to some point. So 1, I'm not enjoying things. Okay. It is perfectly okay to not enjoy things. You can be displeased or whatnot. 2, I'm entitled to your attention. Now, I do agree. People who are trying to get, RTD's attention, Stephen Moffat's attention, Chris Chibnall's attention or whatever, leave them alone. You can disagree with them. So it is okay to not enjoy certain things that you love, i.e. some of the new series stuff and even some of the classic series stuff too. I'm entitled to your attention. Well, yes and no, because if you're a fan and you are communicating as a fan to the people who are, in your opinion, possibly butchering the thing that you love, well, if enough people are writing in and saying, hey, stop doing this, you as a creator needs to take the temperature of the room and course correct instead of double down. If a minority of the audience loves what you've done and the majority of the audience does not, you course correct. And so I understand I'm entitled to your attention. No, you're not entitled to our attention, but you should do your due diligence and listen to feedback. So again, 3 pillars of toxic fandom. No, you can not enjoy certain things that are being done. You are not, the entitlement to be listened to should not be there. But you know what? If there's enough feedback and the same voices are saying the same thing, you as a creative do and should be tasked to, not tasked, should you do your due diligence and listen and accept that feedback instead of fighting and doubling down. And the third one is, I cannot move on. So, and that's the tricky one, is when you have an IP that you love it as a fan. Fan is short for fanatic. It is okay to be a fanatic about certain things. You can have storylines that you do not like and agree with, and it's still okay. However, That being said, you are not entitled to move along. Oh, I used to be a huge sports fan. I went through a massive depression and I don't like sports anymore. I like it, the athletes were making way too much money. They were complaining way too much about how little money that they were being made and how hard that they have to work. And there is a massive disconnect. And I just decided to walk away. I've not really watched a sports game. I do watch the Super Bowl. I know I will watch March Madness when that pops up. But besides that, I have basically 180 degrees walked away from all sports and passion regarding it because it no longer brings me joy. Now, if the sport still brought me joy, but I was being aggravated by some of the players, what they're saying or what the management was doing, I don't have to walk away. I can voice my frustration. They don't have to listen, but I can still voice it. So I kind of agree and also disagree at the same time with this 3 pillars of a toxic fandom. Now, that being said, when the creatives decide to start attacking the audience for them not liking certain things, everybody's entitled not to like certain things. Like I said on the podcast, when Jodie Whittaker took it over, for better or for worse, there's going to be 2 camps. People are going to either say, A, they like the female doctor because it's good and it's good stories. B, they're not going to like it because the stories are bad. That was one possibility. Another possibility is they're not going to like it because it's different and they don't want a female doctor. Or they're going to not like it because the actor, the writing, or whatever is not good. However, even though there's more than one option, the dislikes or likes are going to be seen only in one way or another. It's going to be seen, I don't like it because she's a girl, or I have to like it because I want to be seen as, virtuous. And I think that's where a lot of things are coming down. And I think that's where we're struggling with Doctor Who fandom and many fandoms, but whatever. I got off on a tangent. I apologize. But again, the first Doctor Unbound box set, I like the idea. Big Finish has a good idea. RTD and Chibnall has kind of basically ruined that idea. Like everything matters now. Everything is canon and not canon now. And could this be part of like the Disney, not acquisition, but, is Disney meddling more than it was believed to? That'd be another thing to kind of think about. Because, if HBO Max still has all access to all new Who series except for the 4 specials, and whatever, the BritBox has all the classic series, well, that leaves only Disney Plus with anything new that is coming out. So if that's the case, Disney Plus and Disney are going to want to divorce themselves of all this canon and continuity that cannot be watched on their streaming service. The only thing that matters possibly to Disney is it making sense to the people that go to their streaming service. They don't care about the long-term fans. They only care about the ones that, what is it that I heard? The Doctor Who tourists, the people who have just, come out of the woodwork to visit the fandom, not the people that are passionate about the fandom. And I think that's an interesting tagline that I heard a couple of people say about, people who complain about certain fandoms or whatever. Are they actually a fan, or are they just a tourist into the fandom and, pronouncing judgment, rightly or wrongly? Interesting dilemma. Anyway, that being said, I'm going to look at now the 15th Doctor novels that are coming forward. We have 3 that are going to be set to release. When are they going to be set to release? First one is going to be released. The Ruby Red by Georgia Cook is going to be on hardback and audiobook on the 13th of June, 2024. Caged by Una McCormick is going to be on hardback and audiobook on the 27th of June, 2024. And Eden Rebellion by Abby Falsey is going to be on hardback and audiobook on the 24th of November, 2024. And as I was looking through this, the Ruby Red, Georgia Cook, she's done a couple things. She is an illustrator from London. She's written several things for Big Finish on the audio ranges. It says, Gallifrey War Room and 11th Doctor Chronicles, to be specific or whatever. And she's done some publications on Bafflegab magazine and whatnot. And so she does have some Doctor Who background. Caged by Una McCormick, she does have some background. She is a USA Today best-selling author. She's done many Doctor Who articles, scripts, novels. And so her resume speaks for itself. And the last one, Eden Rebellion by Abby Falsey or whatever, she is a writer, director, reimagining fundamental society concepts and I'm creating what they like to call feel-good social realism. I don't know whatever that means, and I think that's discussing part of her story, but I don't see, and again, I'm nothing but consistent. I don't see what do I want to say? I'm not calling for your Doctor Who fan club card. That is not what I'm doing. All I'm doing is saying, I'm not sure you're as big of a Doctor Who fan as you should be. Could this story be written by, or could this be a Star Wars story and subbing out two different characters for the Doctor and Ruby? I don't know. I am very skeptical of brand new writers who don't have any, background, or it's not apparent to me. But I know probably Liam and Legion would be excited for this, and probably Humphrey is too. I don't think I would listen to any of these. However, I didn't listen to any of the 13th Doctor or 14th Doctor. 13th Doctor audiobooks. And I've never listened to any 12th Doctor audiobooks or read them by that manner. There's only I did Touched by an Angel, which was fantastic. And the main reason why it was twofold reasons why it pulled me in. Number one, Weeping Angels. Number two, Jonathan Morris, writer. It had nothing to do with the 11th Doctor. I'll tell you, the 11th Doctor being in that story was actually a hindrance to everything for me. But it actually worked, and I really liked it because I'm more of a 4th Doctor, 10th Doctor person. Anyway, that being said, let's go into the titles that were the episode titles for the 2024 season 1. It's hard to say that. So as Doctor Who gears up for its global premiere this May, the episode titles have now been revealed for the upcoming season, as well as the guest stars who have jumped on board the TARDIS for this season. And I'm going to just go down and give my thoughts on a couple of things, and also give some criticism too. And then that will conclude this podcast. Again, if you have any discussions, whether you agree or disagree, I would implore you, please email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet the show at Alhambra Podcast. Again, DMs are open. So, episode 1 of season 1 on Disney Plus 1 and BBC 1 will be entitled Space Babies, written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Julie Ann Robinson. So I don't have any synopsis. I do think I did have a synopsis for this at one point in time in the Doctor Who magazine. Maybe I'll take a look at that a little bit later, possibly for next week, as we're getting ever so closely to the first season. Nothing too, whatever. I'm glad that it's taking place in space, hopefully, or maybe it's just an attack of babies from space, which I think I would, for comedic purposes, find that even more enjoyable. The Devil's Chord, also written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Ben Chisel. Boom, written by former Doctor Who executive producer. Anyway, creative genius Stephen Moffat is returning. So I'm going to be, out of all of these, the third episode is the one I'm most intrigued by out of all 8 for the first season. Because, again, all of the Moffat stuff when he was not showrunner, there's the word. Thank you, brain. All of the stories that he did as a non-showrunner were probably some of the best Doctor Who of New Who era. And so I'm going to be very intrigued by Boom by Stephen Moffat. The fourth story is a 73rd Yards, which I wonder if that's an American story, because wouldn't it be 73 meters if it was somewhere else? Anyway, that's a different complaint altogether. This is written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Dylan Holmes Williams. Again, have nothing about that right there. Dot and Bubble, written by Russell T. Davies, directed by Dylan Holmes Williams. Then we get to story 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Story 6. And this is the one I am going to be interested in too, but I'm interested in it for a very skeptical reason. And that reason is, minus Russell T. Davies, minus Stephen Moffat, this is the only story written for the first season that is written by 2 people that I have no idea who they are. And as I was looking at the article when I found it, it was, hey, this is, actually nothing. Sorry, I thought there was something. There's nothing. So I decided to look them up, and I found an article on Doctor Who TV news, and it is said that writers Kate Herron and Bryony Redman joined forces for Doctor Who. So it says in this series, which this article was published on the 24th of October, 2023, says the new series of Doctor Who will feature an episode co-written by the duo of Kate Herron and Bryony Redman, which will air once Ncuti Gatwa takes control of the TARDIS as the 15th Doctor. Both writers have made their mark as creatives, and I will say I scoff at that first introductory sentence after that subhead. It says Kate, as an executive producer and director of the entirety of Series 1 of the popular Marvel Studios series Loki. So, I mean, that would mean that you actually like the series Loki. I will tell you, I have not watched it. I have no interest in actually watching it. As I pulled her up on IMDb, she was the director of 6 episodes of Loki of the first season. So again, don't know anything about that, but I mean, if you'd like to here's my skeptical voice. She directed 6 of them. She wrote, none of them. Okay. Writer credits. Here's the writer credits. She did co-writing for a series called The Sims. And do I have any information on that? Nope. It is an adaptation of the Sims game. And then the other writing credit is for Doctor Who. So she's directed and a couple things. 4 episodes of Sex Education. So, of course, that's her connection to Ncuti. Again, just being skeptical here. Just because you know a person, I mean, hello, Chibnall did this. He hired Jodie Whittaker. He says he didn't. I listened to the San Diego Comic-Con. He, put her through the ringer because he didn't want to show favoritism. Long story short, I think he showed favoritism. I think that she may not have been qualified for, I don't know. It's hard to separate the bad writing from the action or the actor. I mean, I think it is important to separate the art from the artist, but can you tell me that if it was acted any different by, per se, David Tennant or Matt Smith, would the 11th and 12th series and the Flux series have been better? I don't know. I don't live in a world where that happened. I'm just trying to be a tad bit skeptical. Okay, Brownie is an actor, comedian, and a BAFTA winner writer whose work includes the Welsh crime comedy Point Break with Damien A. Evans, an award-winning short film. Oh, of course. So many writers for the Chibnall era were, had short films, okay? So I go up to Brioni, or whatever her name is pronounced. I probably got it wrong. Known for, 2014, Forget Me Not, a short film. Run Towards Them, 2012, a short film. Writer for The Sims, adaptation of a video game. Oh, and writer for one episode of Doctor Who. So you're telling me 2 shorts she's known for, and an adaptation of a Sims game where we really don't have much information on that at all. And I mean at all. I'm on the IMDb page. All it says, an adaptation of the Sims game, directed by Kate Herron, writers Kate Herron, Brony, Redmond. So again, and I know exactly what I'd probably be told by some of my hosts is, hey, well, we need new blood. Okay, could I have talented ones? Well, maybe they're talented. How do you know? I think that there needs to be, again, some form of way in which things can be observed. Previous work. Everybody needs to have a starting point. That is great. Do not cut your teeth on a fantastic, 60-year long-running show. Why don't you do some creator-owned stuff? Why don't you do some independent stuff? Where is that? Oh, doesn't exist. Okay. So again, I am going to be very intrigued by the 3rd episode written by Stephen Moffat, because again, those were some of the best written episodes of New Who starting in 2005. And I'm going to be very intrigued by episode 6, Rogue, by 2 people who currently I don't have any faith in, because again, it has nothing to do. Both of them happen to be female. Wouldn't matter if it was the other way. I have no idea what the race is. Has nothing to do with, who they prefer to date. I don't even know if they date each other. Don't care. Not important. Will they write a quality story? That is the thing. So just edit out a phone call right there. So again, not meaning to berate or criticize either one of these 2 writers, just criticism. I think criticism earned, especially from the Chibnall era, as well as some of these lackluster Big Finish ranges. Listen back to multiple episodes of our podcast. That has been my one consistency. Again, I feel as though I am very consistent. Prove me that you are good, and I will be less skeptical of you as a writer, as a creator. But again, when you go into comic books and there is a brand new writer or whatever, and they start writing characters that don't match their historic precedent. And again, you could say, well, maybe it's going to be okay because, again, Disney Plus has wiped away so much backstory for the Doctor, wisely or unwisely. I'm going to say unwisely. But again, they're trying to do this so that they can get, and they don't have people flee their service and go to HBO Max. They don't flee their service and go to BritBox and watch the entirety of the classic era. They're trying to capitalize as much people watching their content as much as possible. And maybe it would be different if Disney Plus had all of the old catalog. But they don't. Who knows if they ever will? Fingers crossed that they don't. Because again, I think that only could be worse for Doctor Who as an IP, is having the mouse and the imaginary house that goes with it constantly dictating there. Again, not sure the control of Disney Plus, but all you have to do is look at, what has previously been done. And again, when you think about Disney and wanting to start a superhero universe, all you have to do is go no further than John Carter or John Carter of Mars. I actually like that movie. It is a really fun movie. But I don't think Disney wanted to do the legwork to set up an established character. I think there was some issues, and it cost too much money. So again, what they did what they do best is they buy IPs and then they pass them off as their own. Is this the future of what Doctor Who has in store for them? I don't know. Again, just breaking down the episodes. Then as we kind of go forward, we have the Legend of Ruby Sunday and the Empire of Death, both written by Russell T Davies. And that is the massive 2-part finale that will spread across 2 weeks to end before we have eventually the Christmas Day special for the year. I've not discussed and broken down the trailer. Maybe I'll do that in the future podcast. All I'll say is I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just whelmed. And I, as a Doctor Who fan, I don't think you want to be whelmed. I think you want to be not overwhelmed, but I think there needs to be some excitement. And I'm just like, there are certain things that I like about it. And I'll tell you, there's certain things I absolutely hate about that trailer. And I think, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. This is about 40 minutes long, and I will cap that there. Please stay tuned for up and coming episodes of the Dr. Alhambra Podcast, where we eventually will get to some Big Finish reviews and stuff like that. But until then, thank you for listening. I am Brett, and until next time, we will see you in time.
You have been listening to the Doctor Who Alhambra Podcast. Doctor Who is owned and trademarked by the BBC. Doctor Who Alhambra is not affiliated with the BBC or Big Finish. No infringement is intended. Visit our website at alhambrapodcast.weebly.com or email the show at alhambraaudio@gmail.com. Tweet us at Alhambra Podcast. That is ALHAMBRA Podcast. Thank you.